Hello, Math 3 students. Welcome to day 2 of Unit 2. We're still going to work with equations of circles. Yesterday, for day 1, hopefully you recall the formula for the standard form of the equation of a circle. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. What we're going to do with it today is we're going to look at it a different way. So the more general form of the equation of a circle, you'll notice it doesn't have the parentheses. So it has the x squared by itself and the y squared by itself, plus ax plus by plus c equals 0. And you got to wonder, ask yourself, what are a, b, and c? What do those represent? Well, let me give you a quick example of this. So let's say my equation was x plus 2 squared plus parentheses, we'll say y minus 3 squared, we'll make it small numbers, equals 10. Okay, so let's just say that that was my equation of a circle. Well, yesterday I said, we're going to leave it in parentheses. We're not going to worry about multiplying it out. Well, today let's take a second to multiply those together. So x plus 2 squared, anything squared is just that expression times itself. That's really just x plus 2 times itself. Follow that? And the same thing with y plus 3. Y minus 3. So I didn't really change anything here. I instead of writing the square, I just wrote it out 2 times. Same thing with y minus 3. 10 I left alone for the time being. Well, we can further, multiply these together. These are just 2 binomials. So when you multiply binomials together, you can use FOIL or box if you have a way of memorizing that. But x times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Another x times 2. So that's going to be another 2x. And then your last term is going to be 2 times 2. That's 4. You can do the same thing with the y's. So y times y is y squared. Excuse me. Y times negative 3 is negative 3y. Negative 3 times y is another negative 3y. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So 3 times 3 is 9, so that's going to be 9 as well. Since two negatives, negative 3 times negative 3, will multiply to positive 9. Now we just made this a heck of a lot more complicated, but what we want to do is combine like terms and get it to look something like this. So if you look at your x squared, there is no other x squared. If you look at your 2x's, we have those. Those are going to combine to 4x's. So x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then over here, y squared minus 3y minus 3y. Well, negative 3y plus negative 3y is negative 6y. So that's going to be plus y squared minus 6y plus 9. So I just brought the 9 down, equals 10. Further combining like terms, I don't have any other x's, but I do have this 4 and 9. So together they're going to add to 13. So I'll put that at the end, but we have x squared plus 4x, y squared minus 6y, and the 9 plus 4 is 13. And finally, to get it to look like this, you'll notice that there's a 0 on the right side. So we can actually subtract the 10 from the 13 so that the right side becomes 0. When we do that, we only subtract it from the number. We don't have to combine, we're not doing it with the y's, x's, and y squares and x squares. So that's just going to give you 3. But on the right side, that's going to give you 0. I'm also going to do a little rearranging. I'm going to write my squared terms first, so I'll say x squared plus y squared. Then I'm going to write the 4x, and right after the 4x, I'm going to write the negative 6y, minus 6y. And that 3 was positive, so that's plus 3. Well, let's see the pattern. We got x squared plus y squared. We got 4x, and then this was ax, so guess what a is in this problem? That's your positive 4. Plus by, so b is just some number times y. Well, this was minus 6y, so b is going to be negative 6. And the c here in this case is just 3. It's just a constant term. So the general form of the equation versus the standard form, they represent the same circle, but this right here, once it's in this form, we actually have to do a little bit of work to get it to look like this, because I look at this, I don't know what the center is and the radius is. You know, I can't get that information just by looking at it. So I have to get it back into this form to be able to get that. And so today you're going to be given these, and we'll have to get it to look like this. This is kind of a longer lesson. So let's get right into the examples. So in this example, we have it in the general form, x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 10y minus 8 equals 0. We want to get it into standard form, and we're going to use a method called completing the square. Let me explain the steps to that. So step 1, you want to write the x's together. So we're going to put the x's together, we're going to put the y's together, and we're going to move this minus 8 over to the right side. So we're going to say x squared plus 8x y squared minus 10y. And because that's a minus 8 here, if I move it to the right side of the equation, it'll become a positive 8. So it's going to be equals 8. So step 1 is to rewrite, get the x's together, get the y's together, move the constant over if it's on the left side. The second step, this is the most crucial step, because the second step you have to do the same process every time. All right, here is that step. After the 8x, leave a little gap. After the 10y, leave another gap. And after the 8, leave a couple spaces. So what we want to do here is we want to come up with a number. It will be positive, and I'll explain that in a little while why it is. We want to come up with a number here and there, and the same two numbers here. The reason I put them over here is because when you add something to one side of the equation, you must add it to the other. So since I'm adding two numbers, one here and one there, I have to add both of those numbers to the right side to balance it out. So step 2 is the actual complete the square. How you do that is you take the b term. Here's a little formula. The b term is the 8 and the negative 10. You divide that by 2, and you square it. Okay? Again, you take the b term. This is a, this is b, 8. B here is negative 10. You divide it by 2, and you square it. So 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. We're going to square that. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5, but we're going to square that. Now, what happens when you square a number? It's always a positive. So 4 squared, let me rewrite this. Four squared is 16. Negative 5 squared is 25. So the number that you're going to add to the right side is 16 and 25. Okay? 8, again, let me reiterate. This is a crucial, important step. You must know this b over 2 squared. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay? 4 squared is 16. 10 divided by 2, don't worry about the negative. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. What gets added to one side must get added to the other side of the equation. Okay, so if you don't get if this number's not right, it's going to throw your whole thing off. Step 3 is to simplify and factor. All right, what I mean by simplify is 8 plus 16 plus 25, those are going to add to a number. So add them. What do you get when you add those numbers? That's the right side of your equation. 8 plus 16 is 24. 24 plus 25 is, use your calculator, take a second to do that if you don't know it. You should get 49. So this is your r squared, so to speak. The factor part comes from, I have x squared plus 8x plus 16. Can you think of two numbers that multiply to 16 and add to 8? Well, it turns out it's the same two numbers. So think about it. What number times itself gives you 16? And are those two numbers both going to give you 8 when you add them? And what is that number? It should be 4. I'm not going to make you multiply it out again, but think about it. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 plus 4 is 8. Same two factors. Do the same thing with the y's. Now keep in mind there's a negative here, so that's gonna change some signs. But think about what two numbers multiply to positive 25, yet add to negative 10. All right, now if I use 5 and 5, yeah, those will multiply to positive 25, but will positive 5 plus positive 5 add to negative 10? It'll give you positive 10, but not negative. So both of those signs are actually going to have to be negative for that to work. So negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Negative 5 plus negative 5 is negative 10. Now, we're almost there, but we don't want to write x plus 4 times x plus 4. Look back at this example, or when I multiplied it out. You know how I wrote the x plus 2 times itself? But it came from this x plus 2 squared. So what we want to do is work the other way, and we want to write the x plus 4 just once. We want to write the y minus 5 just once. But what we do is we put a square on them. So we come from writing two binomials to one just with the exponent of 2 for each one. You'll notice that this negative here comes right from this negative here. This positive comes right from this positive. That number right in front of x was positive. This is the standard form of the equation. This is the answer. I want to extend that answer just slightly and see if you can think about what is the center and what is the radius. This is back to what we did yesterday. The center is going to be, remember this is the h, this is x minus h. So since that's a positive, then that's going to flip the sign, and that's actually going to be a -4. Always change the sign of what's in here to get from the equation to the center. This is y minus k, and since that's already a negative, k will be 5. So negative turned to positive. Remember that this is r squared. So since r squared is 49, r is the square root of 49, which is 7. So even though the question didn't ask you to get the center and the radius, it's always good practice to get those, because once in a while you'll have to use those to graph them. All right, I'm going to stop this video because otherwise it's going to be super long. Let you try some of the other examples, and I will go over the other examples in your turns in the next video. Thanks.